Right. And there's actually a variety of things that AWS is doing on the AI side that are interesting. So, along with looking at hallucinations, one of the things that got my attention was around how they're looking at multi-agent collaboration, which is an area that we're going to talk about again in a little bit. But the fact that AWS is already talking about how to bring agents within its own environment and have them independently work with each other on specific tasks, I think is an important step forward in tackling more complex logic and more complex jobs that typically require multiple roles and multiple skill sets within an organization. What I'm not convinced about there yet is how the testing will go, because it seems that when you have two agents working together, there's going to be a wide array of combinations that are potentially possible from a work perspective, and it would be useful to be able to test that in a speedy fashion. Right now, it looks like the testing is happening at an individual situation perspective. But even so, having that functionality, I think, is going to be one interesting piece of the puzzle. And then again, Bedrock is also looking at intelligent prompt routing and prompt caching, so that you can route prompts to the smartest or maybe the dumbest model that can potentially handle that prompt, depending on how good you want the answer to be, how much you want to spend on it. I think that's an interesting piece as well. So there's no real doubt or question why, Charlie, you're getting so many discussions around Bedrock right now. Bedrock is honestly an exciting piece of what Amazon is doing, and Amazon's keeping up with the Joneses on that regard.
Yeah, well, what's interesting, what neither of us, I just realized this, neither of us brought to the fold as far as one of the things to talk about is their introduction of Nova, right? So one of the things that has been very notable for AWS is they really haven't had a tier one model of their own, a foundation
Right.
model. And they introduced 6 versions of Nova, 2 of which were multimodal, a video generator, and I forget what the other one was, but um, that are in fact, you know, receiving pretty good reception from people that are looking very deeply at the models. That these are stacking up fairly well, and so it's interesting. I think that the general consensus on the street seems to be that the sense that they had to do that, they had to have their own sort of layer. But I agree with you. I think Bedrock is going to, no pun intended, I guess, be their bedrock. It's going to be the foundation that they build this on. And if you compare this to what Microsoft announced with Ignite as an example, is it is very clear that they are focused on the building blocks. They are focused on not providing an agent studio, which is what Microsoft really their sort of angle at the several layers of abstraction above this. This is about providing a set of tools that enable people to build these AI-based solutions. And so I actually love both of these. I love the multi-agent. I mean, we're going to talk about in a minute. Part of the gap is that all of these solutions, and this is not unique to AWS, but it's predicated on this idea that all the agents are living within that ecosystem. But I still think it's critically important that that layer of orchestration of being able to manage it and to create transparency around it is essential, and that's what they're doing. And then you mentioned the prompt routing and caching, again, absolutely critical. And I think you're absolutely right. It's less about the smarter and more about the dumber. It's being able to take a prompt and saying, what is the least cost path to resolve this? And that's a really difficult problem to solve, one that's going to be absolutely essential to any organization who's trying to roll out a technology and not, have unlimited funds to do so. So, super, super smart.
Yeah, I was on an IBM briefing this morning. They were talking about their AI models, their Granite models. And one of the interesting things they brought up in the roadmap is part of the roadmap is going down market, so to speak, down to, say, 30 million, 50 million parameter models. So they are trying to make more specific, smaller models that will be more efficient from a computing perspective at a time when some companies are talking about just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And of course, Amazon is going to be able to support this as well with their Bedrock, SageMaker Studio. They obviously have a bunch of capabilities for supporting models and being able to switch out big and small models as needed.
Yeah, I get the other thing. I guess it's funny. Not sure where these are because I read all of this. I'm not sure. I'm sure I saved it. But the other big sort of announcement is that they made another big push on their own chips.
Mhm.
And of course, we talked about previously their additional $4 billion investment in Anthropic, and part of that deal was Anthropic agreed to be using their chips. There was also an announcement with Apple that Apple's agreeing to use some of their chips, although not necessarily. It was a little opaque, so not. I don't think it's necessarily for the Apple Intelligence, but nevertheless, what you are really the big message here is you are seeing that AWS is trying to go, end to end on this from the chip level all the way up and to create these platforms to, for builders. And where I think their strength has always been is that, creating a very deep level of abstraction that allow you to not get in the nitty gritty, but still take advantage of their economies of scale and whatever.